Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Thirsty Thursday live stream. In today's episode, we have an awesome YouTuber, cybersecurity. What? Why is it sound? I don't know what's going on. All right. I'm not sure what's happening, but I don't know. Hold on. I think I have this on. Whatever. It's okay. Hold on. All right. I think it's better now. Hopefully. I'm not sure. But anyhow, we're gonna bring in our guest, and here he is.
Hey, what's up,
What's
everybody?
up?
Can you hear
What's
me?
up, Grant? How are you?
Good. How you doing? How you
Good,
doing,
good,
Pat?
good.
It's
So,
happy Thursday.
yeah, but I just hear myself for some reason. I'm not sure what's going on.
Oh,
One sec. Hello?
hey.
All right. Yeah, I think it was just something that maybe was in another browser. All right. Sounds good. That's why we always like log in a few minutes early. But
Yeah, no worries. No worries. So, everything good on your end then? Oh no. Can you not hear me?
yeah, I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hopefully everyone can hear us. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't
Yeah, no
know.
worries.
I don't know what's happening. One second. One sec.
Yeah,
'Cause I
no
can
worries,
hear
Pat.
myself, so I'm not sure what's going on. One sec. I want to see if I can just change this. All right. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. There we go. I think that's better.
No worries.
All right. So, yeah. So, anyhow, how's everything going in Grant's world? Thank you so much for, joining, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Pat. Thanks for having me on. I've been watching your videos on YouTube for some time now, and I've always enjoyed them. Um, yeah, I mean things are going well. I'm entering in to my third year here as a security engineer. So it's been kind of a fun 3 years, a lot of learning, and yeah. But a little bit about me. I am from. I've been doing YouTube for 5 years, and I just started my YouTube journey as more of an individual who would talk about some things that I'm learning at university. I did a little, or I did an undergraduate in cybersecurity, so it was a fun experience. I had some some pros and there were some cons, but overall, that's a little bit about me, I guess. And I don't know where we're going with the conversation, but um,
No, it's all good, man. We just go with the flow, and that's awesome. I've been watching you for years as well, and I remember the first video, which probably a lot of people have. Your first video was like how to a day in a life as a cybersecurity student, I think.
yeah, something like that. Yep.
Yep. And I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago that you put that up. And I think I even watched that before I even had my YouTube channel. And I was like, wow, this kid, that's pretty cool. Like how he can break that down, right? Like getting up at, I think it was like what, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was
And
like,
you
this,
have a good memory. That's a long time ago.
yeah, it was like, man, this kid's, rocking and rolling. And I was like, oh wow. Like then you go to school and I think you went for a jog and you came back home and whatever you did, I don't know. It was
Yeah.
years ago. And I was like, man, I should do something like that. This is back then. I was like, man, like doing a day in a life, because I used to do that skateboarding. I don't know if anyone skateboards, but you watch like a day in a life with P-Rod, Paul Rodriguez, a day in a life with this, or, you would go talking about his day skating or whatever. And I'm like, oh, maybe, a day in a life as a pen tester, a day in a life as a student, which I think was super, super cool to see, like these day in a lives because, we never know what people expect as a student, as a pen tester. People just think you have a hoodie on. They don't realize what's really involved. They just see all the glamorous stars and stuff like that. But
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your background, Pat. I know we were just chatting before this, but
mhm.
how did you get into pen testing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a little bit about my story, right? So I come from a traditional IT, system engineering, network engineering background. I I used to sell sneakers, and being from New York, a lot of us are sneakerheads. So I used to sell Jordans on eBay. So on eBay, it used to connect to PayPal. This was like 12 years ago now, and I had like $900 in there, I think, and that used to be pretty much my bank because I was a little old school, like we were talking about offline. I grew up, don't trust anyone, don't trust the banks, everything you just put in a fucking shoebox under your bed, you know. So that's how I grew up. So my PayPal, I needed my PayPal to sell my sneakers on eBay, but anyhow, then my PayPal got hacked, and I was an undergrad at that time studying just information systems. And I told my counselor, I was like, I want to study something. I want to be able to hack. Is that something that we can do? And back then it was called information system security and assurance. And I was like, okay, I'll learn about this security stuff. And this is before Try Hack Me and Hack the Box and all that jazzy jazz. And that's when you just go online, go on like on Shodan, find some, host and do whatever you're gonna do, or hack your neighbor's Wi-Fi, when everything was WEP. And that's what really intrigued how I got into the world of offensive security. And then I did some defensive or incident response, if you want to call it like that,
Hmm.
for a few years, triage and all that stuff. And I always thought, and we'll get into, your thoughts about that. I always thought having a good understanding and defending against your network, right? Putting these defenses in place. Now, as an offensive person, now we have that mindset of what to try to invade, how to bypass, how to, take the leverage that us as a defender put in place, and now we can leverage that as the offensive guy. But that's what pretty much got me into the world of cybersecurity and pen testing and going, when I did my OSCP back in 2019 or 18, that's what really like, okay, like, cause I did, CEH, CHFI, LPT, ECSA, CISSP, SSCP, all these acronyms. But until even like the OSCP, when I took it, it was very CTF-y. So, I wasn't really into the whole CTF games. And, another fun fact, if you haven't heard, I never played a video game in my life. I don't play video games. So, and yeah, so that's pretty much how I got into the world of offensive security or hacking or pen testing.
That's an interesting point that you highlight with CTFs. So for me personally, like I for a while I did not play CTFs like as a student, and I know I was always told to do CTFs and play them, but I know that specifically CTFs are more geared towards red teaming or pen testing. Um, so when you were, I guess, before your OSCP studies, were you doing at all like any CTFs, or did you kind of have to onboard and do that in your training?
Exactly, exactly. For the the doing some of the hack the box. So like before I even went on to my 90-day lab time for the OSCP, back then for hack the box, you had to hack your way in to even get on the platform, right?
Yep,
It
that was
it
cool.
wasn't, yeah. So you have to go get your JS and
Yeah.
right click, inspect the element, blah, blah, do all that jazz, what you do. Now you just go to hackthebox.com and you register. So it was really really interesting. To answer your question, no, I did not do CTFs prior to that. Um, I did a lot of Vuln Hub machines for that, and and the reason why I went the whole Vuln Hub route is because in Proving Grounds, what Proving Grounds is where all the VMs resided for the OSCP for OffSec. They were the same exact boxes on Vuln Hub. So what I can do is just download the VMDK or the OVA and just put it in my own environment, and I can just attack it. Yeah, it doesn't give me the credit when you do it, but I didn't care about the credit because it didn't really matter. And to me, now, if you do like some of the training, you get some points for those and blah blah blah. But yeah, so to answer your question, I didn't do CTFs prior to that.
Yeah, that's interesting, and then, I think that that's a testament to that. You don't have to do CTFs to be in cybersecurity. I think that sometimes I have been told, or there have been comments about how if you're not doing CTFs, you're not a real one or something. I don't know, just like stuff that's so people are typically so siloed to some extent. So that's even more interesting that like you as a pen tester didn't do CTS before, and you had to kind of learn as you went with the OSCP. So that's a pretty cool.
Yeah, and I saw something from Heath Adams from TCM Security post something today that was really interesting. That he was saying something about hacking, right? Like he's really really good at internal assessments, right? And then maybe he's a little, you know, I don't want like he's not as good at in web exploitation or uh, web development. I don't know, something that he put, which I thought it was really really interesting because it's just like, you know, if I'm going to go to the gym, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, like I'm too small to be at this gym because, you know, the guy next to me looks like Hercules, right? It's not going to demotivate me because it's me versus me every day, you know? So the same thing like on the YouTube platform, right? Like yourself, there's many others. I'm just a guppy in the sea. And it's like, I'm not gonna be, sour about it. It's just, it is what it is, and I'm just doing me. I'm just in my own lane. And so everyone has their place in cybersecurity. So don't ever. This is one thing I really, really talk about is like don't compare yourself to anyone else because maybe if I say John, right, or there's so many. Let's put it stay on the YouTube thing, right? If I say, oh man, I'm never going to be like John, right? But I love John to death, and he knows. But maybe in his heart, in something that no, I don't want to say me or someone else has that he wish he had, right? Or there's always something that's someone has that someone else wants, right? But
Absolutely.
if you think like that, you're gonna be fucked forever, right? That's just me. You just
Yeah,
have to.
I totally agree. I mean, it's so easy though to like compare yourself to other people, and I
Hmm.
think that's one of the humbling things about the cybersecurity industry is that you can literally be an expert with 20 years experience, and you're labeled as an expert, but you have no idea like what's going on in a particular area, and you have these like younger individuals who are extremely skilled. I think it's a humbling part of this industry in that you can you can never really be a fully 100%, and there's always something new to learn. And but it's easy, like going back, it's easy to compare yourself
Hmm.
to others and say, man, this individual has these skills, or this set of certifications or credentials, and I will never have that. It's something that I definitely compare myself to oftentimes, but I agree. It's ultimately about how you're improving yourself.
Yeah. So how do you deal with it?
I think I take a step back and I realize um, the progress I've made so far, and I'm a very structured person, so I will typically lay out a plan for how I'm going to do whatever it is that I'm trying to do, um, and and I try to improve upon my own progress and try to see the progress through in that plan rather than going on social media or like just I try to stay siloed in myself and not be on social media very often because I typically compare myself to other individuals. So that's how I do it. I don't know. It's not a very direct answer. How about you?
Yeah, that's a no. It's pretty valid, right? And the way I never been the kind of person that's been envious or really compared, at least in this field, right? In this field, like I used to do it a lot when I was playing hockey, right? Like I was maybe a fast skater, but when I would, I wasn't a good puck handler or whatever like that. But never really in cyber, because as I got older, I came to the conclusion of what I just said, right? There's always going to be someone out there that wants something that you have, right? Or if it's financial, if it's status, if it's okay, like someone is married and you never been married, someone has kids, you can't have kids because God forbid something, like there's always going to be something. It's always something, right? So the way I just stay in my own lane, man, like and just compare myself to me. And because if I start looking out there, you know, like I'm never gonna hit 100,000 subscribers like Grant, then I'm gonna be fucking sour. You know what I mean? So like it's like, oh, maybe I will do that, and we can both celebrate. Like we can have a cool celebration together. And I always try to keep on a positive note. And for those out there that personally know me, know that like I'm just me. And I have my weaknesses as well, and my pros and cons and my strengths and weaknesses, but that's not one of them, right? That's not. I don't really compare to myself because I know my value, and you know it's just gonna set you low if you start comparing yourself. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are wise words.
Yeah, man. So let's take a step back 5 years
Okay.
ago, right? Or 4 or 5 years ago when you started your YouTube. We don't have to talk about your age or whatever, but you started your YouTube when you were starting uni or college. And now, what made you start your YouTube channel? What was your purpose?
So at first it was really just a personal project for me to document like what I was learning and just throw it out on the internet, which um, at first, yeah, that was literally all it was. And so I had a cyber security internship before I got into my freshman year of college. And I was lucky enough to have a family friend who kind of helped administer that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I what I realized as I was quickly going through all these Udemy courses my senior year of high school, trying to be and prepare for this internship, I realized once I got on the job that I have no idea what cybersecurity is. And so it was a more of a GRC type role, but I think they gave me a good context into the business side of cybersecurity. And before then, I had taken a lot of Udemy courses that were, hands-on hacking 101, and I realized, okay, this is different in the business context. And so when I got into university, I started YouTube because I wanted to just talk about what I was learning, and then also, maybe just inform here and there about kind of what maybe a reality versus expectation type um, messaging, I guess, was what I was trying to go for. So I ended up going through university and just doing personal projects and having doing all kinds of different fun little things here and there with clubs. And yeah, I guess I've just been doing the YouTube journey ever since and posting videos.
Cool. And what is your goal with YouTube? Like, what is the ultimate like? Yeah, what is your goal? Like, do you have a goal or like?
I think right now my goal, and it always has been, is to pursue YouTube as a learning opportunity for me and to hold myself accountable to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is really just it's a medium for me to learn and then share that with other individuals. That's always been my goal, and it probably always will be. I don't think I'll ever like do YouTube full time. I don't think that that is my goal. I've seen that happen, and there's some good things and bad things when you do that, and that's just not where my priorities are. So my goal is to continue to learn, to continue to grow myself in my own workplace and soft skills, and then also just like my technical skill set. Um, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I don't have like an end goal or end game.
Hmm.
Do you have an end game for your?
No, no,
No.
no, not at all. Like the whole InfoSec Pat movement, or my YouTube, it was pretty much the same, right, as you, but obviously not in college. Like I was, so the reason why I made my YouTube is pretty similar to you. I was doing the PC NSE for the Palo Alto system, or Palo Alto security engineer, whatever the hell it is now, certified engineer. And me and a couple of friends, we were just like studying for it, and we were like doing it back and forth. Like we would send little videos on Google Drive, like, okay, Grant, today you're going to be doing IPsec tunneling from firewall one and firewall two, and then we're going to run, TCP dump and blah blah blah, analyze the traffic or whatever. And then now the next person's going to do static routing, dynamic routing, blah blah blah. So one of my friends in that course is like, Pat, why don't you just put this on YouTube, because maybe it'll be. I'm like, dude, this is the God honest truth. Before 4 years ago, I never even used YouTube. I didn't never watch a video on YouTube in my life, right? Really, like before that, unless like someone sends me something and I'll watch it. But so now it's like, okay, like now I have to learn how to like upload a video to YouTube, and I didn't know anything how to do that. And obviously I figured it out. Obviously here we are. And I was like, okay, like this is pretty cool, but I didn't know really the whole. And this is, I want to get to this with you too, but like I didn't know what applications to use. I didn't know what kind of microphone. I didn't know anything about anything. So literally, I like had a headset like this one, a Logitech. We plugged it in USB, and I'll just talk into it. And I had a little Brio camera, like a little, which I did for most of my conference calls at work. It wasn't for this. And yeah, that's how I got started. And then I was like, doing some Windows server training with a friend as well. And then he was like, just put them all on YouTube and I'll watch them on YouTube. And that's what really pushed my Cisco videos, my Microsoft videos. And in the beginning, I was showcasing, a little more hardcore hacking stuff. But then I got 2 strikes in like 3 weeks. So
Mm.
I was like, wait a minute. But if I put how to hack, this channel has it, maybe has a quadrillion subscribers and I have 4, but still like it's the same shit, right? So that's what I just didn't understand. And that literally, I almost quit this. I was like, fuck this. This is stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I just like, okay, I'm not going to focus on cyber. Maybe I'll do like information security, not really so much hacking and stuff like that. So I just stepped away from that. And that's when I started making my Cisco videos, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and all like some of the stuff that, where my bread and butter was prior to hacking. And, uh, and then I just revisit it, and, here we are, right? Get to know some people in the community, understanding how oh, so let me take a step back. And this is, like I said before we were off air, like where I'm from, I didn't grow up your traditional nerd. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
came up from a little of a tougher area. So I'm a little more hard, I guess to say. And like I'm very blunt. You know what I mean? If I'm asking you for something, like I expect you to even say yes or no. And don't fucking ghost me. Don't leave me on red. Like I don't like that. So like that's what I did. I reached out to people like on YouTube. I was like, yo, like what kind of software do you use? What do you use? Like I'm trying to do this, but I don't know where to start. And I'm not going to mention names, but 2 of them ghost me, and then I ended up talking to these people, and I asked them, you know what I mean? And I took a screenshot of the email that I sent. I was like, yo, like what's your problem? You know what I mean? Like why can't you respond or like acknowledge it? And obviously I had a conversation with them, but it's like, like on your channel, if you say, reach out to me if you have any questions, and I'm reaching out, like maybe it's not about the video that you're talking about, but it's a question about the platform. And yeah, and that was, then I got like, he was like, oh, you can use OBS Studio and, the
Hmm.
stuff that we use. And then that's how, no, first person said Camtasia. And I was trying to use Camtasia and that shit was too complicated for me. Still to today, I don't know how to use that. But now I just use, OBS.
Same.
But but yeah, that's pretty much that. And here we go. Fast forward, what, 3.5, 4 years later, and here we are.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's always interesting to see kind of what people's motivations are with YouTube, and it's a cool platform if you approach it the right way, in my opinion. I mean, there's all different types of ways to approach it, but
Hmm.
uh, yeah, so that's it's good.
So when you started, like, I guess this to me, like when you started, did you reach out to anyone asking for like tips and tricks?
No, not really. I no, I did not. I just took my little camera, or I had a like my phone as my camera, and I had that for like 2 years, and I got like a $15 microphone from Amazon, and I just did that, and I really like haven't, in terms of just my overall setup, it's just been the same for the last basically 4 years, um, and I I've kind of tried to live by just like simplicity. I know
Hmm.
there's you can do all the different cool LED lights and have really nice equipment, but for me, it's just like be simple, and that's just how I am.
Hmm.
Um, it's made it easier for me instead of having to constantly be upgrading. But I can see why that would be good too. So I don't know. That's probably a flawed approach in my opinion, or my approach is probably flawed. But um, yeah. So I didn't have anyone to reach out to for tips and tricks. Um, did you? Did you? I mean, I guess you hinted at you did reach out to some individuals.
Yeah. So I did reach out to some individuals and I got ghosted. And the one person I reached out, after I was like, you know what? Like and I'll say it on live, like I was a big, and I'm still a big CBT Nugget fan, but I don't really do too much CBT Nuggets anymore because I'm not in that space. Like they don't offer a lot of cyber and stuff like that. But when I was doing, like, for example, CCNA, CCNP, those kind of certifications like Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Keith Barker, you ever heard of Keith Barker?
Yeah.
So I reached out to on LinkedIn, right? This is the last guy I thought would reach out. You know what I mean? Like this dude is, you know, back then, like he was like my God. You know what I mean? It's like this dude, and he was like the best person. You know what I mean? Like he reached out, in a matter of a couple hours because I know the guy's busy, and now I know him personally. So it's like I became really good friends with someone that I idolize, right? So I just reached out. I said, "Hey Keith," whatever. I said, "Hey, I know you do CBT Nuggets. I figured I'll ask because I want to learn how to make videos." And he's the one that told me about Camtasia. And he's like, "Yeah, you can get this, that, and that." And he was willing to help me set it up and the whole shebang. And the other guys that I reached out to were nowhere near his level, right? And I'm like, so it's just like he's super humble. He was just super cool. I was like, wow, this is really awesome. And he taught me some tips about, because I used to get, and I still get pretty bad anxiety when I do my videos, right? Like when I hit play, I don't know how many times it takes you to get flowing, but
Yeah.
for me, it's not the first take. I'll hit record and I'll be like, oh, welcome, fuck, and
Yeah.
then I hit,
Right.
like, so he's the one that taught me something that really, really, it's a big takeaway. He's like, do your opening, whatever, in the mirror, practice in the mirror, talk to
Hmm.
yourself. So I would sit in the mirror, no lie, I'm not even embarrassed to say this because it helped me get over my anxiety. And it's like, I would sit in the mirror, say, hey guys, welcome back to another video. This video is about whatever it is. And I would just say that over and over and over. And so when I hit record, it was just playing in my head already. And it was a little tip that, helped me out. And so yeah, kudos
Yeah.
to Keith. He's a good one.
There are lots of cool people in this space
Hmm.
who are very helpful,
Yep.
and that's funny. That I think it's it's good. It takes time, to go through the whole process. for me, I feel like I it takes forever for me to get like flowing. I have to re-record many times. So you're not alone if if you're also feeling that, or if you're experiencing that.
Yeah, and yeah, it was just an awesome feeling knowing someone and the people, just for the folks listening, the people that I reached out to initially wasn't in cybersecurity. They were not like no John Hammond, no Heath Adams, no, whoever else. It was someone that I was used to just watch their videos, and it was an IT. It wasn't, it didn't have to do anything with cybersecurity. They weren't cybersecurity people, and I didn't even know about them until a few years ago, until I started. Like I used to watch a lot of like Hacker Exploit and Z Security or Z Security. Um, you know,
Z
yeah,
Security was one who got me into it. I took his like Udemy course when at the very end of high school. I Z Security.
yeah,
So yeah,
zero to hacker or something like that.
I think it was, yeah. And I'm trying to think of anyone else. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So you didn't reach out to people in this space at first, and then
Mm-mm.
interesting.
Yeah, no, it wasn't because a lot of the a lot of the channels that I was watching were like, I guess I don't want to say this like but they were foreign. I felt like they were foreign channels, right? Like Z Security. They were like maybe in the Middle East or something like that. Like at least they sounded like they were. Um, but so I didn't really like reach out to them because I'm like, okay, maybe they were, you know, far fetched, right? So I tried to reach out to people that I thought would respond, right? But nope. And then, so once I actually started to reach out to folks like yourself, like John, like everyone else was super, super cool. Like, super, super interesting. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk
Yeah.
about like some certifications, right? Or what does your day to day look like? What do you, because like I said, I watched your video the other day about the expectation versus reality. So if I'm and you do, all right. So what is your day to day? What's your day to day look like?
Day to day. So I do work from home. So I
Mm-hmm.
usually wake up and go through, read the security news for 15 minutes a day, try to stay up to date.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the security engineering space. So I, it depends on the projects that we're doing. We'd have different OKRs or initiatives that we have each quarter. So it depends, but typically I will work out of a queue of tickets. We have tickets like Jira tickets, and um, I'll work out of that queue. So, for example, right now we are evaluating some vendors for, I can't really get into specifics, but
Mm-hmm.
we're evaluating some vendors. So we'll do vendor evaluation, or this past year we were working on a automated vulnerability triage pipeline that will create our own tickets or automate ticket creation and assign that to teams. So day to day looks different, but typically it's going to be read the security news, work out of a Jira queue of tickets, and work on project work for that day. And I have meetings here and there throughout the day. And yeah, that's about it. Call it a day. So it isn't as glamorous as maybe some other types of positions, or as stressful as like an incident response, but it's
Mm-hmm.
very informative and fun for me to always be learning something new.
Cool. So what? Obviously, I know the answer, but maybe there's people out there on my platform that never even heard of you, or never. Obviously, if you haven't, go check him out. He has an awesome channel. Go subscribe. But so was it what you expected when you got into the role, like cybersecurity? What did you expect cybersecurity was?
So I expected it to be very red team, like very much so. You're a hacker. You're going to be hacking all day, or not even hacking all day, but just like you're going to be reporting vulnerabilities and um, I did. I really just thought like cybersecurity had to do a lot with hacking, and I think that was a lot of just because of the media. Like you go
Mm-hmm.
onto any of the news outlets, like NBC News, they'll throw a reel of the hacker in the dark room, and so like I go onto Udemy and I look up like cybersecurity 101, and a lot of it I think surrounded hacking at the time. And this
Mm-hmm.
was like about 10, well, not 10 years ago, it was like 7 or 8 years ago. So I think the space has matured a lot more so. Going back, to that previous internship opportunity, that's when I kind of realized like, oh, there's just like so much you can do in this industry. And I didn't even realize at the time how big it was.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's really occurred to me, or it occurred to me throughout my university years and having different internship opportunities, just how big this industry can be.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, going back to the original question, that's kind of what I thought cybersecurity was going to be, and that's obviously it's a lot different today than I thought it would be. Um, Even like for you as an individual, you're in the pen testing space, right? You're a red teaming. Did you think that red teaming was going to be different than what you do on the day to day?
So yes, I did think it was going to be a little different because when people think red teaming, or because obviously there is a difference between red teaming and penetration testing, but for the
It's true.
offensive side of things, so because I'm not truly into red teaming, I'm not doing any red teaming. It's more of pen testing. So when I'm, what did I say? Like when I thought we were gonna we get a block of IP addresses, we just go pen test, right? No, there's research, there's reconnaissance, there was so much more to what we had to do to do it, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like we needed to gather a lot of information, do our reconnaissance. It's not just, you know, you have a automated tool, you put an IP address and you hit play, and like, you're watching the Matrix and you, like you say, put your hoodie on in a dark room and you compromise a system and they say, system failure, like all these little um, backgrounds and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
so, so when I finally got into it, like I was like, okay, like this is because I remember when I was a sysadmin and we had a pen test, and I'll put it blatantly out there because I said before, like I used to skateboard, so my password was Skater Pat, right? And I was like, this guy got my pass. How the fuck did you get my password? Right? Obviously, got the back then LTLM v1 hash, and it was super easy. Probably it was fucking rocku.txt back then, Um, and I was like, how the hell did you get my password? He goes, oh, the complexity because for the firm that we worked at, we didn't have like our group policies, our AD, our password policy wasn't that great. It was just like a small rinky-dink place. And when when I'm doing it now and I remember that story, I'm like, wow. And you still have people that use like, you know, winter 2024 bang or winter 2024 bang bang. You know what I mean? Like we're not, exclamation, exclamation. And I'm like, wow, like people are still using easy passwords. You know, and it's funny because I think it was in Heath Adams' course, like when they were talking about like sporting, like, into sports, like if you're in New York, like maybe, like there's a family, obviously that person changed it now, but there was a family member of mine was his team was the New York Giants. So he had his password was Giants or something like that. So it's so true how people can just utilize these passwords and just a little bit of, social engineering, just talking to them and getting some information out of them, you can probably get their password, right? And so yeah, exactly. Skater, exactly. And and it's funny, like one of my emails is still like Civic Skate because I used to have a Honda Civic, but yeah, it's just crazy. Like I never thought it was going to be what it was because
Mhm.
think about it when we're at a pen test, right? Like I didn't know anything about reporting. I just thought we hack, right? But there's preliminary, there's like a kickoff call,
Mhm.
there's this, there's that. There's so much into it than just going to hack away. So It was definitely not what I expected.
Is the process so? Do you? I don't know if you can expand on this, but
Mhm.
um, do you work for clients, or are you working for different clients in your company, or is it just are you just an internal penetration tester?
So that's a good question. So no, we do both, right?
Okay.
So we do both. Like we'll do an internal assessment, obviously for our own stuff, right? And then we'll do some outsource stuff and some different industries, right? We'll penetrate different industries. So yeah, it's both.
So
We'll
does
do
the process ever get repetitive for you?
yes, yes,
Okay, interesting.
yeah. Because if you think about it, it's still a process. It's a methodology, right? So you're
Hmm.
still gonna you obviously I'm not disclosing any clients, but like there was clients that, you do a system scan, right? Or you can do, this was not in the place I'm at now. This is prior to that. Like there was a system scan that we did, like or a pen test. And we scanned the system. We used back then, I think it was just OpenVAS, right? We didn't even use Qualys or Tainable or Rapid7. They were just using OpenVAS. And I remember like a small vulnerability, internal blue, right? Eternal blue, and it was still on that network, right? So it was like you're scanning for this. Okay, now you can just open up Metasploit, or you can run some tools that you get off GitHub, and you're able to get into. And this was Eternal Blue was on their domain controller.
Oh
So
wow.
so once you're in the machine, you can just do, you upload Mimikatz or Kiwi and then dump the hashes for their domain. And then the domain admin sits inside of there. And then you can take that and do whatever John or Hashcat or whatever to crack that hash. And that hash was stupid simple, right? It was super simple. And then we own the domain in less than like 10 minutes, right? So it's like, okay, you pay you for 40 hours. Now what do you do, right? So you still have to check out
Hmm.
some other paths, and maybe you can, check out some other stuff. And then I did find other stuff. Like there was, like confidential data on a file share that they had all the employees' social security numbers and blah, blah, blah. And you obfuscate that, but just do all the findings you can, because yeah, getting DA is cool and all, but at the end of the day, it's educating the client, right? To secure them as best as you can, right? Because the next time around, you want to make sure that place is a little more hardened. But yeah,
So um, what makes it repetitive? Is it uh, performing the same commands or the same steps every single time?
sort of kind of like if you're doing an external, right? If you're
Hmm.
doing an external assessment, you get the IP address, you run whatever your Nessus scan or your Qualys scan or whatever your vuln. Like I always start. I don't know. Probably every pen tester starts differently. While I'm doing my Qualys scan or my Nessus scan or whatever, then I'll like do some reconnaissance on their domain, see if there's any zone transfers, see if there's subdomains. And there was an instance a while ago that I was doing an external. I think I did a little video on it. Try to emulate that same thing with FTP and RDP. So they had an RDS server sitting out there, which is remote desktop services, and I was able to find their, obviously we had their IPs, right, that we was scanning, and I found, was it remote.abc.com and then ftp.abc.com, and then the FTP server sat. It was an IIS, so it was running ASP dot whatever ASP, and they were running anonymous logins. So, and that was one way in, and then obviously doing some credential or breach credential harvesting, I guess you can say. Go on different, how have you been pwned and other breaches that you can go on the dark web. You can search that too. And I was able to find credentials on this specific domain, and I was able to utilize those credentials, and that was a way in. And then, but there's there's always fun things, right? Because developers don't really think about security. So maybe they had a web develop, and then they have like whatever robots.txt, just like sort of like that's where I guess the CTFs come into play a little bit,
Hmm.
right? Because the methodology and the thought process is pretty similar. But I guess like the CTFs is like the objective is to like get a flag. This one is like, okay, like just to see how vulnerable their system is and see if you can exploit it. But yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, it's pretty much the same. I have a pretty much a cheat sheet, right, in one of my notepads. It's like, okay, like step one, step two, step three, step four, and maybe the commands might change,
Hmm.
but the methodology is the same and the concepts are there.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. What about you? It's like, have you been interested in the offensive side?
I have not in particular. I've heard that. I think for me, I really like doing more like engineering type work, like actually implementing a plan and building out defenses. I'm wanting to move kind of into a threat detection or detection engineering type role,
Hmm.
and but I have not really, to answer your question, considered doing offensive security full time. I do like putting things out in the sandbox and playing around,
Hmm.
and making myself feel good with like 20-year-old exploits and saying, yeah, look at me, like I did it. But yeah, I think I'll stick to more of the defensive side of the industry. Um, how about you? I mean, I assume that you're pretty happy with where you're at.
Yeah, yeah. I've been dabbling in some like malware, reverse engineering stuff. That's definitely some stuff that's been up my sleeve. I don't really advertise it too much and put on YouTube because I'm still learning it. It's not like, the other day I did like a try hack me malware thing. I still felt a little stupid, but, it's a learning process and I'm just trying to do my best as I can. Right. So, but the offensive side is definitely, I do defensive stuff. I'll look into triaging. I'll you know, do all that stuff as well. But the offensive side is where I'm more passionate about.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's that's the nice thing about this industry. There's so much you can do, and even if like you're not happy with who you're at, you can pivot over and still learn so much.
Hmm. So now we want to, because we only have about 10, 15 minutes, and I want
Yeah.
to be respectful of your time. So now I'm brand new in the field. I'm going to go to Grant and say, how can I be like Grant? What recommendations would you say to be a security engineer, a threat detection engineer, cybersecurity engineer, whatever you're doing? How can I be like you?
Oh man, this is a good question. Um, First off, I would say thank you for helping out my ego. I'm joking, but um, I for me, I've always said the same thing, which is focusing on two aspects. One is focusing on the fundamentals of IT. If you have no idea, if you have no background, like unlike someone like yourself who was in a sysadmin role or even help desk, if you're directly trying to get into cybersecurity, you have to know the underlying technology. And so I always say start out with the fundamentals of IT, and that just basically means understanding what's inside your desktop, right? Starting out with hardware, and you don't have to get a deep dive into knowing about the bus or I don't know, mother like the intricacies of a motherboard, for example. But just knowing the fundamentals of IT can be really helpful, and having a solid understanding of IT networking is really important. And from there, it's so much easier to actually go into and do security. In my university, I had a lot of classes that were Cisco Academy and that Cisco NetAcad, and I actually really liked them because they weren't inherently security focused, but they really helped me just grasp the fundamentals. So that's number one, and then number two is to outreach, and for me, this is something I'm still trying to work on myself, which is just networking with the community and connecting with other individuals and not having an agenda of like, I need to get a job, but just, putting yourself out there. If
Hmm.
that means going to different meetups, there's a local meetup here that happens once a month where they go to a bar and just chat about whatever, security. It's security professionals, but they can do it. You can talk about whatever. So those are the two aspects that I always recommend individuals start when it comes to cybersecurity.
Cool. Yeah, and that's awesome. So I guess we have 10 minutes. Is there any questions? I haven't really been looking at the chat. Um, so if there's any questions, let's get that cooking now. Let me look and see if there's anything. All right, there we go. What is the best coding language for hackers? My first language. So I guess I'll answer it and I'll pass the baton to Grant. So I would say I'm going to be 100% with you. I don't code. I don't I don't code at all. Um, so I guess the best coding language, if obviously I can read code. I can look at a Python script if it's broken. Like I can do some stuff if I'm popping a shell on like PHP. I know how to go into the PHP reverse shell. But I would say Python. Python would be a good one. PowerShell, understanding PowerShell, because especially like if you're being, if you're going to be hacking Windows environments, understanding PowerShell, automating those processes. And that's the two scripting languages. Was it scripting or I don't remember what it said, but that's the two languages that I would recommend. What about you, Grant? Do you script? Do you do any coding?
Yeah, I do scripting. I don't do hardcore programming. I'm not doing data structures or just, hardcore like software engineering type work. So lots of scripting. I relay the same advice: Python, PowerShell, Bash, and but I would start with Python if or PowerShell or either of those is a good language to get started in. And there's just so much extensibility with Python in general that you can use, and a lot of the InfoSec industry uses Python. So that's a great introduction to programming, in my opinion.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And any other questions? Let's see. Things I should learn before I learn CTS. All right. So I guess I'll touch on that. Things I should learn before learning CTFs. So I think obviously learning, like Grant said and myself before I even did like the whole CTF world, understand the fundamentals of networking systems. Because if you get thrown into a CTF, right, and for example, hack the box. Now it's a little different, but if before you only got an IP address, right? You spawn up a box, you get an IP address, and they say go to town. Now what are you gonna do, right? If you never did an Nmap scan, if you never even understood ping. If I say ping to Brian, if I ping Brian, what am I doing, right? What is the responses and how does that traverse? So, if I open up Wireshark and I send an ICMP request to Brian, what is it actually doing? So understanding all of that stuff and having those basic fundamentals of system administration, some basic networking, it may be some coding like we were just talking about, just in case you have to like do a reverse shell or pop a, if you have to spawn up a stable shell and you have to run Python, some stuff like that. That's what I can do. I'm not a hardcore coder, but yeah, that would be my recommendation. What about you, Grant? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, I don't play a lot of CTF, so I would probably just relay the same advice that you have given. I think that it's just knowing the fundamentals is important, and I think in addition, knowing how to research, which I know may seem rather obvious, but CTFs ultimately come down to like doing a lot of Googling or
Mm-hmm.
chat GPTing or whatever. And, I think that that's an important skill that you have to have, because it's not going to be like, oh, I know this step, and then I know this step. It's like, it's a very, the process of CTFs is like going through and trying all these different paths. And so, um, yeah, knowing how to research is an important skill.
All right. So yeah, so that's fine. So let's see, where's that? Hey, I guess that's for you, Grant. So hey, Grant, I'm based in the UK. Did you see that up there?
Yeah, I do see that, and I can provide an answer. Um, so I don't have a security clearance myself, and I'm in the United States, so I can't speak for the UK. I have not, unless you're going into the government here in the United States, I have not dealt with a lot of having to have a security clearance for positions. Um, so I can't give any advice on that end, but in terms of, let's see, yours. Um, I think, yeah, I don't have anything in terms of the security clearance. But for you, and as an international student and pursuing your master's in cybersecurity, that's a good place to be in, especially if you're in the UK. It's probably more of a progressive industry, so your chances of getting a position are definitely out there, I guess, or they're more abundant. Um, so I'm sorry I can't answer your question directly. I don't have experience with security clearances.
Yeah, no worries. All right, John, good. You want to throw that one up there? Which one of the things that you learned in your career that you wish you known when you started? I guess I'll go. Just keep
Yeah.
that up. Just keep that up. You go first, and I'll trickle off you. Go for it.
Okay. Okay. One thing that I wish, I think one, consistency is probably the biggest thing for me, and um, consistency and the power of your network. I know that people always say, networking is important, but those are probably the two big things that I wish I would have known. Um, yeah, for me, it's like it's not necessarily you have to learn 8 hours a day and always be on the computer, but it's just a matter of like taking small, consistent, measurable actions over a course of period of time, and how that can yield results, and then continuing to always network and just outreach. And like we've talked about earlier in this conversation, like you, Pat, I mean, it sounds like you really were good at that as a junior, or like as somebody getting into this industry. You just reached out to a whole bunch of people and said, screw it, and I like that approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me read it again. Wish you known when you first started. So remember, I started a long, long time ago, right? So I guess when I started IT, when I started in IT, the things I would have wish I would have known was, yeah, the networking, right? Because I didn't really, to feedback out to you, like I didn't start networking with people and before 4 years ago, right? I used to be anonymous. Like I didn't even put my government name on any platform. I didn't like the fact that people knew me. You know what I mean? I was really weird, but that's just because that's how I grew up, right? Um, but the thing I wish I'd known is probably, yeah, taking a step back and trying to learn things in chunks as well. Because I remember when I first started IT, like the advice that I was given is like, you need to have the MCSE, CCNA, all these certifications, which maybe it's true, maybe it's not, because I did them all. I did a CCNA, MCSE, blah, 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 blah. And it definitely helped me, you know. But fast forward 20 years later, right? This was 20 years ago. And fast forward 20 years forward, like, I don't think if I was doing that today, I would need that same approach, right? Because of the network, like you were saying, like we have LinkedIn, we have all these ways of reaching out and connecting with people. You just need to show some of your skills, right? And that's what, platforms like YouTube, Medium, blah, blah, blah. You can just put your projects out there, GitHub, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that would be my answer for that. So the last thing, do you have any certifications? Or Grant, do you have any certs?
I do have a few certifications. I have Security Plus and the AWS Architect Associate, the Splunk Core Certified User, but I don't have like any, like I don't have an OSCP or a CISSP. Um, so I personally am not like just a cert chaser. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I only pursue certifications when it makes sense to me.
Fair enough.
So that's what I have. I know that you have lots of you have your a whole portfolio of certifications. It's impressive.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing is with the certifications, the way I used to think about them just like, because, a friend for the family, like, oh, you need this, that, and that. And then I started taking the approach, and I'll get to your question, Eric, in a sec. Or the way I approach them is, if I'm going to learn something, I want to be reinforced for what I'm learning, right? So when I was learning VMware, when I was learning Cisco, when I was learning Palo Alto, like, I'm learning how to set all this stuff up. Why not take an exam to get? It's like, why go to med school without getting your residency, taking your boards? Why go to law school without taking your bar? So that was my take on that. And I was like, okay, like, if I want to study or work on VMware, I might as well just go get your VCP, right?
Mm-hmm.
VMware's. And then, okay, I started learning more. Okay, let's take the VCAP, the next level of VMware. And then same thing with Cisco. Okay, I'm learning CCNA, but I'm doing BGP, EIGRP, OSPF, and all this other stuff. Okay, let's take it to the next level. So that's the way. And then I started teaching Microsoft at a local school here in Florida. So that's when I did my MCT. And then I had to continue doing like the MCITP for server 2008, then the MCSE for 2012, and then 16. And that's where I stopped. Um, but yeah, so Grant, are you on the East Coast and planning on going to conferences?
Yeah, so I can answer this. I'm in the Midwest, so neither the West or East Coast. And I don't have any plans of going to any conferences this year. I do wish that I had more time to dedicate to going to conferences. We were just talking, Pat and I, offline before this about conferences, and so that's something that I want to go out and do. I haven't really been to any conferences besides just like the local ones here in my city.
Cool. Yeah, and myself, yeah, I'm going to Romania next month to do a chat out there for a B-side, and obviously Hack Space Con, and then B-side Tampa, and obviously Black Hat, DEF CON. So that's when I'll be on the West Coast. Um, so DEF CON is where I'm meeting Pat. Schedule it. Yeah. And Eric, yeah, man, if you ever see me anywhere, dude, just say hello, and I won't bite. And since we had a few, chickles in the beginning of the chat, I don't mind hanging out for a few more minutes. We have Knock. You want to throw that up there? When you studied, you do a certain I'll let you answer that one, and I'll just keep that up there.
Yeah, so I typically have a mixture of theory and practical hands-on stuff. Typically, like for theory, it's usually like I have definitely a dedicated block of like, say, I work by the Pomodoro method, which is like 25 minutes of study, 5 minutes of break, and then you do another one. So I usually do like 2 Pomodori or like an hour of work for theory stuff, and then practical stuff I typically dedicate like maybe have an hour of doing practical hands-on work. Typically I am either doing one or the other for my kind of studying. So I'm either doing a heavy theory or a heavy practical. And for the practical stuff, it usually goes way over time because practical stuff is just, you run into errors and there's all these, and then you're just like, you're going down the rabbit hole and you have to figure it out. So I typically I try to give myself like, okay, a manageable time just to do a certain set of work because it's so overwhelming. It's like, oh gosh, I had to do all of this work. And so if you can just break it down to a chunk, it helps me just get started. And once you get started, it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely feed off that, right? Like right now, as a lot of people know, that I'm studying for like the PMPT just to, see, challenge myself to that exam. And it's the same thing, right? I do a couple of video, like I'll say, okay, I'll go through the section, for example, Active Directory or Python or reconnaissance or whatever. I'll say, okay, there's 10 or 11 slides or 10, 11 lectures. Obviously for that, there's not too much theory. The theory is very little. It's mostly practical. That's why it's practical, ethical hacker. But what I'll do is I'll just do an hour straight, right? I'll just, that's what I dedicate, per night or per study session, I shall say. Like I have it on a whole different other machine. I'll put on some tunes, let it play in the background, and I'll just, I'm a little weird. I need whatever, but I'll listen to Heath Adams do his thing, and then after I'll just do it by myself, and yeah, that's I'll just do it for an hour straight, and then what I do, like once I'm done doing it, I'll redo that you know without hearing him. Like, say, for example, we're doing Active Directory, we're doing this, that. I'll listen to him, we'll do it. And then the second time I'll do those steps again on my own, right? I'll just make sure it keeps it flowing, because it's like, okay, if I'm watching him again, I didn't get it. That's my thing. Like, if I'm watching you do that twice, that means I didn't get it the first time, which is okay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's, in my head, my method is like, I'm gonna watch it. And then the second time I'll do it, and yeah, that's pretty much mine.
That's a good technique for sure. And I haven't really given that thought, so that's something I may try doing in the future.
Yeah, but the 25 minutes, I think that works more for like theoretical
Yeah.
studying, like Security Plus, or maybe the AWS stuff, or some stuff that's more like the Pen Test Plus or CYSA Plus, or some of these other certifications that's more like I have to read and learn, because I'm taking a proctored exam that's a written test or multiple choice or whatever. But I think when it comes to like the OSCP, or CRTP, or whatever, CRTO or PMPT, and all these other practical ones, there's no questions. It's a little different approach, I think, than when I was studying for like MCSE and all those certifications.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so this will be the last question. Do you ever record yourself doing things?
I do occasionally, but no, usually not. Not like practical work. How about you?
Yeah. So, do you ever record yourself doing the thing? I'm not sure what thing you talking about, dude. No. So yes, I do, like if I'm doing like a reel or a little video that I'm like, okay, let me just like put the camera behind me, and I'm still learning. Like, you do a great job at that. Like, I'm not good at like putting the camera up high and getting like all these cool angles. I'm still shit with that. But I'll have this little thing. I have this little thing here, and I'll just put it up high, and I'll just point it down, and just like I'll film it. But it's like mostly for like a minute video, for like a short or like a reel. But it's not like I'm not sitting there recording myself study. No, I'm not doing that. Hopefully
Yeah,
that answers your question.
I don't record. Yeah, I think maybe like the practical stuff. Like I don't have a screen recording of like me going through different exercises when I'm studying. So I don't do that. I think that's maybe what the question was going towards. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Could be anything.
Yeah, but if it's like screen recording my stuff, no, I don't do that. First of all, this is the reason why I don't do that, right? Because obviously that's taken away from the content that the creator created. In this case, TCN. I'm not going to screen record stuff that he's put out. That's unethical, first of all. And like, I'll showcase techniques that I've learned throughout his course. For an example, like I'll showcase like a technique on my own stuff, because I want to reinforce that topic. But I'm not going to be like, okay, like this is the course, because if you haven't paid for the course and I'm showcasing his course, that's not cool, right? I wouldn't want that shit done to me. But so if that's what you're talking about, I don't do that. But yeah, I guess that's that'll wrap this up for tonight. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, Grant, how can they connect with you? Obviously, a YouTube channel. Is there any other way that you want to convey and let the world know how to?
Yeah, you guys can always contact me through Twitter DMs, and email grant@cyberacademy.org. And yeah, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, Pat. I've been following you for some time, and you're really an individual I look up to. So,
damn, dude, thank you, and likewise. Like, there's no, age isn't just a number, dude, and you're fucking killing it. Keep it up, dude.
Yeah,
Keep it up.
you as well. You as well. I'm excited to see where you go.
Likewise. So I really appreciate you, Grant. Appreciate everyone in the chat tonight. Happy Thursday. Be safe. Much love. Take care, guys.
See ya.